In the spring of 1945, as Allied forces swept across Germany, a small group of American intelligence officers was given a mission that had nothing to do with ending the war. Their job was to find scientists, not to arrest them, not to bring them to trial, to recruit them. What followed was one of the most morally compromising operations in American history, a secret program that imported over 1,600 Nazi scientists, engineers, and technicians into the United States, erased their records, and put them to work building the future of American power. The program was called Operation Paperclip, and the man who launched Americans into space was one of its recruits. To understand Operation Paperclip, you have to understand the fear that drove it. By 1945, the United States and the Soviet Union were no longer just allies. They were already rivals, and both sides understood that the next war would be won not by soldiers but by technology. Germany had spent 12 years building the most advanced weapons program in the world. The V-2 rocket, jet engines, chemical weapons, nerve agents that the Allied forces had never encountered. The scientists who built those weapons were now scattered across a collapsing country, and both superpowers were racing to find them first. The U.S. Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency was given the task. Their mission was simple: identify the most valuable German scientists and bring them to America before the Soviets could. There was just one problem. Many of these scientists were not merely German, they were Nazis, members of the SS men who had used slave labor from concentration camps to build their rockets, men who had, in some cases, directly overseen the deaths of thousands. The official policy of the U.S. government was clear: no one with a significant Nazi background could be brought to America, so the records were changed. The most prominent recruit was Wernher von Braun. Von Braun was by any measure a genius. He had dreamed of space travel since childhood and had turned that dream into the V-2. The world's first ballistic missile, which rained down on London and Antwerp during the final years of the war. He was also an SS officer. He was also aware, and this is documented, that the V-2 rockets he designed were built using forced labor from the Dora concentration camp. Thousands of prisoners died in those tunnels. Some were worked to death, others were executed for sabotage. Von Braun later claimed he was powerless to stop it, that he was a scientist, not a soldier, that he had no real choice. The U.S. government accepted this explanation. His file was altered. His SS membership was buried. His Nazi party affiliation was erased. And Wernher von Braun was brought to the United States, given a salary, a house in Alabama, and eventually the directorship of NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center. He became the face of the American space program. When Apollo 11 launched in 1969, it was von Braun's rocket that carried it. He was celebrated as a hero. Over 1,600 scientists were brought to America under Operation Paperclip. They worked in military bases, universities, and research facilities across the country. They developed missiles, biological weapons, chemical agents, aviation technology, space vehicles. Among them was Kurt Blom, a Nazi doctor who had conducted biological weapons experiments on prisoners. He was recruited and interrogated about his research. He was never charged with war crimes. Among them was Walter Schreiber, the medical officer implicated in freezing experiments on concentration camp prisoners. He was brought to Texas. When journalists discovered his presence and published his history, he was quietly relocated to Argentina. Among them was Arthur Rudolph, operations director of the Dora camp where V-2 rockets were built. He later became project director of the Saturn V rocket, the rocket that took humans to the moon. In 1984, he was investigated by the Justice Department and voluntarily renounced his U.S. citizenship rather than face trial. He moved back to Germany. These were not outliers. These were the architects of the American space and weapons programs.
The State Department knew, the Department of Defense knew, the White House knew. The official policy banning Nazis from immigration was simply ignored, or more precisely, rewritten at the operational level. Background files were altered. Incriminating details were removed. New biographies were constructed. The Joint Intelligence Objectives, agency's own documents, some of which have since been declassified, show that officials were explicitly aware they were importing men with serious war crime allegations and choosing to proceed anyway. The justification was always the same. The Soviets were doing the same thing. If we didn't take these men, Moscow would. The knowledge was too valuable to let morality stand in the way. What the American public was told was very different. They were told that the scientists coming to work in America were technical experts, researchers and engineers with no significant political involvement. The word Nazi was not used, the camps were not mentioned, the slave labor was not discussed. The truth would not begin to emerge until the 1970s, and even then, only partially. Operation Paperclip did not end with the space program. The scientists recruited under Paperclip helped establish the foundations of the U.S. ballistic missile program, the chemical and biological weapons stockpile, and the early architecture of what would become NASA. Some of the knowledge transferred from Nazi Germany to the United States remains classified to this day. Wernher von Braun died in 1977, celebrated, decorated, mourned. His contributions to space exploration are real. The rockets he built are real. The moon landing is real. Also real, the Dora concentration camp, the 20,000 prisoners who passed through it, the estimated 9,000 who died. Also real, the deliberate decision by the U.S. government to erase those facts, import the men responsible, and build a national mythology around them. Operation Paperclip was not a secret forever. It was declassified, it was studied, books were written, and yet, Wernher von Braun's name is still on a middle school in Huntsville, Alabama. The program that erased his past did its job well. This has been the suppressed history they didn't want you to find. If this documentary added something, subscribe. Next week, we go deeper.